Teachers at Reddit, what's the funniest answer you've gotten from a student that technically wasn't wrong? My first grade class was learning the word powerful. Kids came up with examples of powerful things and people. Like elephants and Superman. Then one boy said, babies are powerful because they can cry and get whatever they want. Teacher, I need a pencil. Where do the pencils live? I have a bucket of sharpened pencils for them to use. Close bracket. Pennsylvania? I'm a teacher in Canada. Told the kids to name me 5 US states and their row could go out for recess first. Boy raises his hand and says rattlesnake? What? Huh? Oh, snakes. No. States. Name 5 states. Same kid T-Bone? You're naming steaks? States. Start. Resource teacher was in the room and we were crying laughing. Gas. Liquid. Solid. Plasma. In 7th grade on a test the question said, why do some people see some technology as positive and others see the same technology as a problem? And a kid simply put, because some people are Amish. Phys. Ed teacher here, I always wear shorts teaching. Parent teacher conferences roll around. Grade 1 student comes up to me with her parents' MR. Famous 1187. I've never seen you wear pants before. I've never responded quicker to a comment before in my life to clear that up. I'm a white guy teaching ESL in Asia. My students were tasked to complete the simile. The old man's hair was as white as. One student asked if she could write down my name. Teaching English to middle schoolers in Korea. Asked. Okay. What's another way you can express surprise in English? After going over expressions like, no way, comma, are you serious? Are you kidding me? Close bracket. Kid yells from the very back of the room. What the FCK? ESL teacher. I had my students do an activity where they had to give directions based off of a map and situations I had chosen. The final question was more complex. And one of my students wrote, way too difficult. Take a cab. I've taught English in Korea and Japan. And while maybe not that funny, one student who wanted to say something like afterwards or in the end wrote the after was here. I stopped for a moment and just stared off into space after reading that. I tried so hard. And got so far. But the after was here. It doesn't really matter. I teach ESL in a university in China. The topic in class was the effect of sleep on study. After introducing the phrase pulling an all-nighter, I asked the students to give some advice on how they can stay awake in class after the pulled an all-nighter. Student. Take some cocaine. Me. Give student an odd look, excuse me? Student. Yes. You know. Like in Coca-Cola. Coffee. Tea. Me. Pauses for a moment. Now understanding what he meant. But prompting him cocaine? Student. Realizes what he has done. Oh tea. I meant caffeine. On a 3rd grade Charlotte's web quiz. Give 2 pieces of evidence that support this statement. Charlotte was a good friend to Wilbur. She comforted him and she didn't let him become pork. Elementary school kid saw the answer key. He swore he came up with. Answers may vary. All on his own. I asked a 3-year-old what love was for a Valentine's Day card to his parents. His response. Maybe love is what tornadoes need. We call him the professor because he teaches us new things every day. In nutrition class at CC. The teacher asks what's one of the first things you throw out of the window when you drink alcohol. This kid just mumbles. Standards. The question. A man is to get a fox, a chicken, and a sack of corn across a river. He has a rowboat. And it can only carry him and one other thing. If the fox and the chicken are left together, the fox will eat the chicken. If the chicken and the corn are left together, the chicken will eat the corn. How does the man do it? Students answer. Let the chicken eat the corn. And let the fox eat the chicken. Then bring the fox over. Not a teacher but a fellow student once answered in the head to the question, where was JFK shot? I've got a story from my fiancee's childhood. They were testing her intelligence or awareness and showed her an image with a TV in a room. The TV was turned on, showing a cartoon, and had a plant on top of it. Q. What's on the television? A plant. Apparently she just kept insisting in utter frustration until the administrator bothered to look at the image and not the answer sheet. Reminds me of a friend's story. I don't know about public schools, but for sure at private schools you get a little quiz type test with a teacher before they confirm you're ready for kindergarten. One of the things he had to do was identify pictures. He aced the section except for the picture of the airplane. He looked and thought hard and then burst into tears saying, I don't know what that is. Turns out his dad worked for Boeing and he was trying, and failing, to discern exactly what model plane the super generic picture was depicting. Why are you late? The bell went off before I got here. College professor. Teaching developmental psychology. The end of the semester. I asked all the students to write down the most interesting or important thing they learned. One wrote, babies are stupid and old people still have sex. It's not wrong. Kinda covers the lifespan. My dad used to coach basketball and was trying to get the kids into a 2-3 zone. He yelled out to one kid in particular who was in man-to-man. What defense are we playing? Kid slaps the floor and says tough defense. I teach forensic science. We were going to be using iodine to fume fingerprints. Iodine vapor is no joke. So I terrify the students and use only 2 volunteers with goggles and respirators at the chemical hood. But we still all go over the MSDS, PPE, and equipment. I spend maybe 5 minutes talking about everything in the chemical hood to my class of 30. Towards the end. So, someone tell me, what is a hood? A hand shoots up. Yes. Student. It's like the place where you grow up. I facepalm. The class laughs. And I'm unable to pivot his answer in the moment. He's on the autism spectrum and wasn't trying to be funny. This is intentional. But I teach a foreign language. And so when I introduce the word for I don't know, I call on a student who typically gets answers wrong and ask them to translate the word as if he should know it. When the student inevitably responds, I don't know, I tell them they're right and the look on their face is always priceless. In a class that deals with electricity, I asked the students to name a good conductor. Asked what is the moral of the story, the little engine that could answered, don't pick up hitchhikers. To refresh your memory, the engine had trouble getting up the hill because he had taken on several more passengers due to their train breaking down. Edit. I fell asleep. Sorry to all of those who suffered from the missing parenthesis. Also, the moral. Perseverance. Believe in yourself. Not a teacher but someone told me this. What side of the road do people in France drive on? Apostrophe. Miss. They drive on both sides. Not a teacher but witness this in class. Sociology prof. Why do you conform? Student. It has always been my goal in life to blend in. Soc prof. No more questions for you. Okay, so this story totally doesn't translate to English, but I will give it a shot anyway. In German there is this little drawing game called Das Haus vom Nikolaus, consisting of drawing a house without lifting the pen or drawing the same line twice. Well, the act of drawing something without lifting your pen is called an Zugzeichnen, which literally translates to drawing in a train. So yes, one kid actually drew a house in a train. Edit. Name something living fox, name something non-living fox poop. I wrote an exam where the question was, can you name 3 models of DNA replication? She wrote, no. Not a teacher. But I remember something I did when I was in grade 2. The student teacher took us into a private room one by one for eye exams. I've never taken an eye exam before and it wasn't really explained to me what was happening. I was just sat down and asked to read the first line of the chart. Then the second. Then the third. By the time it came to the fourth line I was like, it's too small for me to read. 1 minute please. Then I got up, walked over to the board and started reading the letters. Apparently that's not how you do eye exams. Similar thing happened to me. They took us into a room to test our eyes, so I left my glasses in the classroom. After a couple lines they recommended glasses. So I went and grabbed them. They looked at me like I was crazy. Hey man. You wanted to test my eyes, not my glasses. I teach English to Vietnamese kids. I asked what is the population of Vietnam? The kid quickly surveyed the room and said more than 15. This guy is going places. Nguyen. I can finally answer one of these. Student is reading a science magazine during a bit of downtime. Student. Whoa. 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 Yo. MR. You mean to tell me pollen is like flour cum? Me. Sort of. Student. Man. I be getting that shit all in my face. I asked when is a time you have used integrity? Apostrophe. He wrote down I wash my hands after going to the bathroom. Even if no one is in there. Not a teacher. But something my brother answered for homework. My brother was in year 1. And his homework was to draw a balloon blown up. He drew a picture with lots of squiggly shapes spread out across the paper. He took it as the balloon blown up. Like a bomb. So he drew the leftovers of an exploded balloon. His teacher loved it and gave him full marks. Not a teacher but a witness. In high school history class the teacher asked what was the peace treaty that ended World War II? This was a trick question because there wasn't a single treaty that ended the war. This one kid blurted out the Manhattan Project. The teacher laughed so hard he went and got the other history teacher and had the kid tell him the answer too. Teaching grade 5. Students were fooling around during group work, so I said sarcastically, "Do I need to stand here and watch you do your work?" To which the student responded even more sarcastically, "Well, you don't have to stand. You can grab the chair and sit." I was teaching kindergartners about needs versus wants. And I showed pictures of things and we talked about why it was or wasn't. After a picture of a puppy came up, everyone but one kid said want. So I asked him to explain his answer. He just says, "But what if you're blind?" Good answer. You win. I once drew a holy mammoth picture because I couldn't remember the name of it for a quiz question in science class. I got the point for it. Nope, I still apparently cannot spell woolly. Better than only half a mammoth. I worked in a special needs class for a year and there was the one kid with a textbook case of Asperger's syndrome. Very bright. Very tough nut to crack. I tried to tell him a corny joke once and he was not having it. Why did the chicken cross the road? He likely had business over there or was compelled by force. Well. Okay. Easily my favorite memory of that class. Not a teacher but I work with kids. Trying to delicately explain to a 3-year-old why she should be kind to her mommy. You shouldn't say those mean things to mommy when she's sick. Who looks after you when you are sick? And makes you feel better? The doctor. As an EA, I gave a group of 2nd graders a worksheet about main idea in detail. In the instructions, they were told to circle the main idea and underline the details. One child returned the paper to me very promptly, having underlined the phrase "the main idea" and having circled the details in the instructions. Edit. She knew exactly what she was doing when she turned it in. She's a clever one. She did just fine when I asked her to complete the assignment as expected. Me. The quiz tomorrow will be on. Student. Paper. Everyone laughed and I rephrased the question. Not a teacher but a friend of mine couldn't remember what country wasn't a part of the UK on a test, so she put Mexico. I teach English in Japan. When teaching my students, I asked what do we say when someone is being too loud? One smartest says shut up forever. More like forever. I had never said this. No clue where he learned it either. I nearly lost my shti. But he wasn't wrong. The correct answer is be quiet. Please. Which I told him was more polite. He just grinned as if he knew. But didn't care. Smart kid. I'll miss him when I change jobs. I'm a teacher. But my best answer to this is in high school. An English teacher was asking about the poetic reasoning behind why the moon is always used in a feminine context. Guy behind me says because they're both on a 28-day cycle. The assignment was write the following numbers in all letters. The kid answered 3, 4, 15, 16, 21, 22, and so on. I gave him full points. Edit. If you don't get it, just read the comments. FCK. I teach and coach baseball. After our shortstop got thrown out on second for the third out, I told someone to pick up Will. In baseball terms meaning get his glove and hat so he can go out to the field. This kid who was new to baseball, a big lineman type football player, claps his hands and goes it's okay Will. You'll get them next time. I cried laughing. Edit. Will was the name of the shortstop. The kid who picked him up was genuinely being nice and thoughtful. But coming from this big intimidating kid it was really funny. When I used to teach anatomy. Anthony. Name this bone. UHH femur. Apostrophe. Is it a left femur or a right femur? Yeah. Anthony. Name this bone. Frederick. My godfather is a lobster fisherman. And all of the kids in the family would go out on the boat with him from time to time. There was a running joke with my uncle, dad and godfather. They would get a kid to bait a trap, then applaud them for being a master baiter. My cousin went back to school after summer vacation and when the teacher asked what she did that summer she proudly stated I became a master baiter. Not a teacher but just a witness to this hilarity. In science class in high school our teacher was talking about electricity and lightning and the effects of being electrocuted. He asked if anyone happened to know what is the first sense you lose when struck by lightning. Without missing a beat, a girl put her hand up and answered in all honesty, your sense of humor? Class had to stop for a few minutes until everyone could regain their composure. Edit. Apparently, electrocution specifically refers to death by electricity, so in the future when I tell this story, I will remember to refer to it being shocked. Same kid on the same quiz. Q. Describe the bus ride at the beginning of the chapter. A. It was a bus ride filled with action, but also with emotion. Q. What happens at the end of the story? A. The story ends. Kid's going to be a politician someday. There was a buddy of mine in college, J, who was legendary for his witty responses in class. 1. We were training to be RAs and the residential life person asked, what are some things that as an RA you shouldn't do in your dorm room? People were saying stuff like drinking, etc. J raises his hand, gets called on, says, practicing medicine without a license. The trainer was like, oh, yeah, I guess that's true. 2. Same guy was in a film class. Teacher asks, what technique defined the scene we just watched? J raises his hand, gets called on, says, long, awkward silences. Teacher, could you give an example? J. Dot. I co-teach a class and do a lot of the grading. Kids will write I love teacher A and I'm like ha 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 this is teacher B. Nice try. Student. Oh. Teacher. You look so handsome today. Me. Yes. I know. But you still have to take your quiz. Not especially funny. But I've thought about it for a long time afterwards. I was substituting for an elementary ESL class. There was one young boy from Africa. We asked the kids in the class what 3 wishes they would like if they could have anything. This young man said, 1. New shoes for my mother. 2. School all year. 3. Roast chicken for dinner. Most of the other wishes had to do with toys or candy. This kid was focused. Name a compound word. Asphalt, hormone, Harris, Bangkok, Uranus, dictator. I was in a special ed room where the children were sorting nouns. The picture of the mailman went in the people column. The baseball went in the things column. And so on. There were several pictures of animals. And a little girl, who wore shirts with puppies and horses on them almost daily, sorted the animals in the people column. And was the only one in class to have done so. I pulled her aside to ask her why she didn't sort the animals in the things column. I didn't tell her she was wrong. I just wanted to see her train of thought, and she started giggling and burst out laughing, saying, "How is an animal like a thing? Animals are alive. A cow can't be like a desk." And she's cracking up because she thinks it's so silly that people view animals as things. I asked her if someone taught her that or if she just knew it, and she said it was just something she knows. It was touching and innocent and very sweet. I love animal lovers. I'm an elementary art teacher, teaching about self-portraits in one of my kindergarten classes. I explained that everyone's portrait will show all the parts of a face we all have, but they will be drawn uniquely to look like you. A child raises her hand and asks, "Are we supposed to draw nipples?" We all got nipples. Extra credit problem on a test that was very difficult. Like crazy difficult. Involved many steps and probably had to do with finding out the rate of oxygen consumption of reptiles. I hadn't made the answer key yet. Very few students tried any of the extra credit problems and one answered all of them, but for that last one they just put, "I don't want to do this problem." Neither did I. Gave them the point. I know I'm late, but maybe whoever reads this will appreciate it. Not a teacher. But I was helping my, at the time, 4-year-old son with homework. It was a picture of a cow and he was supposed to draw spots on it. So I told him draw 17 spots on the cow. I came back a few minutes later and he had written the number 17 several times and put circles around each. I definitely kept it. In grade 9 English we were studying The Hobbit. Our bonus question for the test was, what word does Gollum never say? The answer of course was I, but one kid put down pumpernickel and the teacher was like, "FCK. You're right. Have a mark." Edit. Sigh. Guys, this was a bonus question meant to give you an easy mark. Which it did, as he gave the guy a point for pumpernickel. Had it been a more hobbity question it would have just been included in the main exam. He also asked about the 1994 Stanley Cup playoffs in Dr. Seuss's The Lorax. The main body of the test was much more academic. What does Gollum never say? Kid. Punk ass bitch suck my left testicle. Edit. This is now my top comment with 11.8k points. Thank you. Reddit. Edit 2.